Now that we're a few weeks removed from the NAR settlement and we've had some time to hear some additional feedback and get some additional clarity on what the proposed settlement does and doesn't do, don't mishear me. We still don't have everything in its truest form. We don't necessarily know how everything is going to shake out, but we do have some information that we can start implementing in our business right now, because July, when a lot of these things that we are expected to have changed need to be implemented by, well, July is going to come pretty quickly. So we need to make some adjustments before that day comes. So I want to give you some tactical and practical ways to let July come and go pretty easily while we adopt the strategies that are going to help us thrive in this new norm. So I'm going to share with you some of those strategies right now. And first, let's start off with the macro. Let's understand the macro situation. And when I say macro, I mean this is from a 40,000 foot view, right? This is going to speak more to you. This is going to speak to more of as an individual rather than the tactical and practical. Now, we are going to get into the tactical and practical, but first, let's address the bigger blocks and really get into some solution finding here very shortly. But first, let's address the macro state real quick. So we're going to put macro real quick. And what we're going to do is we're going to remain calm. I know that sounds so simple to say. It's one of those things that I would think, oh, that's so hokey. But at the end of the day, remaining calm is going to allow you to make better decisions. At the end of the day, if you're operating at an emotional stress, at an emotional high every single time, especially in the negative side, where you're thinking, oh, what's going to happen with buyer agents? Is my income going to go down? How am I going to support my family? All of that does create is anxiety and stress to you. So at the end of the day, to the best of our abilities, let's remain calm. Let's operate from a place of logic. Let's operate from a place of reason. During this transition that we are getting ready for, it's just so important. So that's number one, let's remain calm. Now, again, we're going to get very tactical very quickly, but first let's address the bigger elephants in the room that I typically if I'm being completely candid with you, I typically don't cover this type of content. And I would consider it more motivational, more hokey in my opinion. But, as I've gotten a little bit older, I can really appreciate this sage wisdom, that things that I overlook in terms of my emotional well-being and how, what I think, what I feed into my mind it really dictates so much of my actions at the end of the day. So the second thing we're going to do is going to continue to learn. At the end of the day, the way that we've been doing real estate is going to change slightly. The end goal is going to be the same. We're going to help people buy and we're going to help people sell. But in between, there's going to be things that change. So we need to continue to learn. So the information, as you saw, the way that the NAR settlement was just portrayed by the media, it went absolutely bonkers. So we need to continue to learn. I'm not saying stay in tune with everything that happens 24/7, although this channel is going to help you do that. But what I'm saying is continue to learn the real estate part of the business, at this point, the NAR part of the business, and the commission part of the business that is still ongoing. Remember, this is one class action suit. We still have some others out there, right? This is more from the seller side. This is a settlement that was proposed to squash the seller commission suits and the copycat suits. There's still a buyer's part, so that's still ongoing, right? So just be open to learning, especially here during this transition period. The third thing I want to encourage you to do is seek solutions. This kind of feeds very well with staying calm and continuing to learn. Because at the end of the day, you can stay calm, which is super valuable, and you can learn, which is so valuable. But if we don't seek different paths, if we don't seek creative ways to actually adapt to this new norm, then we're going to be left behind, right? It's easy to take all this information in. It's so easy to take that in, but if we don't do anything with it and actually use the new tools that we have available to us, use the new rules of engagement, and don't actually seek a solution, don't actually seek a new path of doing business, which I'll show you some of the things that we're implementing right now that's going to be very helpful for you, save you a ton of time and make you a lot of money. At the end of the day, we need to start seeking those solutions because it's going to really help out. But at the end of the day, if I had to wrap all this up before we get into the tactical and practical, at the end of the day, we have to adapt. There's a new norm in the horizon, and I encourage you to adapt. Change is change. Oftentimes we fear change. Oftentimes we're resistant to change, and that's human nature, right? So as soon as you can accept that and accept it for what it is, doesn't mean you have to stay there, but can go beyond that and actually adapt. Again, staying calm, learning, seeking solutions, and actually adapt to the new norm. You're going to be fine. Now, again, this is from a macro perspective. Remaining calm, continue to learn, seek solutions, and adapt. Kind of cut myself off there, didn't I? I'll draw over here on the next one. All right, so let's get tactical. Let's get step by step. So this is, we're going to call this tactical. All right, so here's where we go. Number one, what's our value prop? What's our value proposition, right? Really establishing what that is, what you bring to the table, because at the end of the day, especially when you're working with buyers now, you do have to establish and have the conversation of where the compensation is going to come from. Now, some of us have been doing it since day one. Now, a lot of us have not been doing it since day one. We've taken for granted that you are going to bring a buyer and we're going to get compensated something. It certainly isn't the fixed percent that is touted by the media out there, but it was something. We did have the understanding that, hey, if I bring a client, there's going to be a compensation. If I bring them to a new build, hey, it might be 3%, might be 4%, might be 5%, might be 6%. If I bring them to a resale, it might be 1%, might be 2%, might be 3%. But we knew that there was going to be something, right? We had that comfort that as soon as I could secure a client, a buyer client, and they were working with me, I was going to receive compensation, right? So at this point, that's not a guarantee. At this point, you have to have the difficult conversations up front. You have to present the different ways that you can work with them. Either they pay you directly, depending on when you decide to invoice, if you will, or at the big up front, or when the closing actually happens. That's going to be a business decision that you make, but you're going to be getting compensated from the buyer directly. Now, the other way is it would be included in a transaction. It would be proposed in the deal in the form of a seller concession. So that's another way that you could be working with your buyers. And the third way is the more common way that we've been seeing, which is the co-broke. Essentially, a seller is selling a home and they've already agreed with the listing agent what the commission is going to be for the listing agent, and also the listing agent has already shared what the buyer's agent compensation would be. So essentially the listing agent is negotiating the compensation for the buyer's agent. So we've known that. But at the end of the day, the important thing right now that we need to establish is what the value proposition is going to be for you. What do you bring to the table? So one of the things that I really encourage you to do right now is get as many testimonials as possible. So here we're looking for testimonials to validate what you're bringing to the table. Now, this is not going to replace. You still need to really understand what your value proposition is, but this is going to enhance. Getting these testimonials, getting these reviews are going to be very helpful for you, because it's not just you sharing how well you've been doing. It's going to be others validating how well you've done, right? Case studies. So, hey, I was working with this buyer and they thought that they weren't qualified, but after I introduced them with a very incredible and capable lender, connected them with a credit repair specialist, we found out that we could purchase in a matter of a couple of weeks, as opposed to them thinking, hey, homeownership is lost. Had they waited for a year, 2 years, then they would have been purchasing in a very tricky real estate market, right? So whatever case studies you have, whatever stories that you can share, Stories help you so much. Stories sell. So again, establishing the value proposition that you have is going to be super important. But then pepper in some testimonials, pepper in some reviews, pepper in some case studies to really enhance what your value proposition is. Because at that point, it's going to make the conversation a lot easier, right? So that's going to be a tactical thing that you can absolutely implement right now. This is your value prop. All right, so let's go to number 2. So again, this is going to still be tactical. Tactical, remember, this is what we're doing. Number 2, define your process. What are you going to do? So think about it this way. When you go to a doctor, I go to my orthopedist a lot because I have terrible knees. And they have their way of doing things. Whenever you show up, you're going to get to the receptionist, you check in, you do your intake form, you present your medical insurance if you have it, and then you're going to do the intake. Then you're going to be taken to a room to wait for the doctor. You're going to fill out some additional things probably. Now, when the doctor comes in, they're going to ask you some general questions, and they're going to do their testing and all that fun stuff. And assuming that they still have no idea what's going on, or if they need to do some additional tests, they'll either give you some lab work or go take these x-rays or go do whatever. So here, again, what I'm illustrating here is that the process that the MDs have, we as real estate professionals need to adopt, maybe not theirs, but we do need to adapt a process, right? So what is your process going to be? So what I encourage you to do is, if you're looking for one to model, is first you're going to have contact. So you're going to have contact with somebody, whether you're running Facebook ads, Zillow ads, somebody sends you a referral, whatever. This is going to be your first point of contact. This is when you have that first engagement. There's that first point of contact with that potential client. Well, what happens then? At this point, what we should have been doing is have a buyer consultation. And if your process looks different, cool, that's awesome. But as far as you need to be able to define it so you can share it with others, with your team, and also especially with your buyer clients now, so they know exactly what to expect. So once you have your buyer consultation, whether it's going to be over Zoom, whether it's going to be in person, whatever it happens to be, it's something that we do need to do at this point, because here's where you're going to be able to present your value proposition. This is where you're going to be able to introduce your stories. This is where you're going to be able to educate your clients. Right now, again, many of us have already been doing this, so it's not going to be new. Now, something that is going to be new for a lot of individuals is getting this buyer rep agreement. Getting this signed. I know you can't see it because I'm kind of hiding it. But getting the buyer rep agreement signed, just so you can see it, let me erase this real quick. I'll move it to where you can see it. All right. We're going to keep going here. Rep, agree, sign. All right, so we're going to get that buyer rep agreement signed. Before we open a door now, this needs to be executed. It's actually part of the proposed settlement. Before, let's be honest, we would skip this step. In fact, some states don't even have this or made this a requirement. So the buyer rep agreement, or something that's written, is something that some of us just have never had to do or really has been enforced. Whether it's your brokerage, your real estate commission, it just wasn't something that was enforced. But at this point, it is going to be enforced. Now, we don't understand the mechanism that's going to end up doing the enforcement. So who's going to police this? But we understand that this is something that we're going to need, that we're going to be required to do this, right? So then, and only then, are we going to go out there and do real estating. This is the fun part. This is us actually in our jam, right? So the real estating, this is searching for homes, showing homes, negotiating, getting under contract. This is the real estating part of the equation. Oftentimes, back in the old days, we would skip, and if we're honest, many of us, when we had buyers, we would actually kind of skip the buyer consultation as well. So we would kind of wing it along the way. And we would go straight to real estating because we understood or we felt that there was going to be some compensation at the end of the rainbow. Now, again, it's not guaranteed. So here, again, this is something that we ultimately need. This buyer rep agreement is something that is needed. So let me X out of that just to make sure that everybody is on the same page. And then we close on the property and get paid, right? So this is the process. So define the process, whatever it happens to be for you, but just define it. This is very important for us to understand because it's going to really help you save a lot of time. It's going to allow you to better articulate, again, the value proposition, articulate the new way of doing real estate, or I shouldn't say the new way, but the way that you work. Right? So this is something that is going to help you at the end of the day. So defining your process is something that's going to allow you to move a lot faster, a lot quicker, and grow much bigger. All right, so I'm going to stop putting tactical here. Actually, yeah. I'm going to stop putting tactical. All right, so I think we're on number 3, right? The third thing that I encourage you to do is have a buyer. I am not spelling correctly. I'm sorry. Buyer, client, you can call it funnel, but I like to call it hub. So having a buyer client hub. This is something that all of our clients get. Having a buyer client hub where everything is laid out for them in terms of who our preferred providers are, our processes, we have graphics, we have everything in place. So we really showcase in one area what it's going to look like working with us. So having again, you can call it a funnel, you can call it whatever, but having a centralized location to where people that are working with you have one place that they can go to and not be lost. So this is where you showcase the process that you have. This is where, think of it like a one-sheeter. This is just a very clear term sheet of what it looks like. And you're going to facilitate, here's where I'm getting to, and this is one of the biggest sells for our clients. You're going to overwhelm them with information in a good way. You're going to, in an educated way, you're going to provide so much value to them up front to where we're going to smooth in that buyer rep agreement. We're going to really make the buyer rep agreement a formality, almost like a terms and conditions. You know that they want the product and they want the product. And you know, when they log into their app and they're downloading the app and they're just accepting the terms and conditions. Whenever you buy a new iPad, you're accepting the terms and conditions. Nobody reads it. I'm not saying that your clients shouldn't read this, but I'm just giving you the illustration that you know you're going to use this. You know that you're going to use the iPad. It's just a formality at that point. You want the formality aspect to be the same feeling, if you will, for the clients, to where they have a centralized location, to where they see all the value that you've provided, everything that you've done up front, to where, again, that signature is part of doing business. So if we think about it, if we really, really think about it, a client is not expecting you to work for free. We, on the other hand, we expected ourselves to work for free. We felt that that was a rite of passage, if you will. We were just going to go show homes, and you know, maybe this person will buy and this person won't, or whatever the case may be. But we took that for granted. We took our time for granted in many cases, and our clients trust that they know that you get compensated. Maybe according to the media, they didn't have an understanding how you got compensated, but they understood that you were going to get paid in some way, shape, or form. Now we're going to make that abundantly clear because we have to at the end of the day. What I'm suggesting here is having a client hub, having a centralized location to where you overwhelm them with value, make the frictionless transition into that written agreement. So speaking of written agreement, so I'm going to go ahead and put this here because it feeds into your buyer client funnel, but it's not going to do all of your heavy lifting. Create a video explaining rep agreement. Creating a video that really walks through the rep agreement, what it says and what it does. Now, it's going to allow you to do two things. One, it's going to help you filter out the tire kickers, but it's also going to help you enhance and better serve the clients that you ultimately end up working with. I'm not saying you're going to abdicate your explanation of the buyer rep agreement. That's something you will be doing, but by you having a video that really spells it out, it will allow you to speak in a different way. This is what we essentially here internally we call a workflow video. You're going to be able to speak in a different way to where you're going to stand out, as opposed to the competition out there that's just they're forcing me to write to sign this contract. I don't even know what it says. They try to explain it, but I don't understand. Well, you're going to have a lot of those conversations. You're going to get a lot of those calls from somebody that maybe reached out to another agent, and that other agent was asking them to sign the buyer rep agreement. That agent did nothing wrong, but the communication, maybe it just wasn't the best. So you're going to get that call. Maybe you might be the second, you might be the third, you might be the fourth, but you're this way, whenever you are providing that information, you are being upfront with it. So that's why I suggest that not only do you have this hub to catch those people with so much value, but you also bake in this number 4 part, creating a video that's actually explaining this buyer rep agreement, why it came to be, what it actually says, what it doesn't say, and it really helps you from a time perspective for sure. But again, it's going to filter out those that are going to never work with you, the tire kickers, and it's also going to enhance those clients that you do end up working with. It's just a different way. It's just a different way to operate. And plus, on top of that, from a compliance standpoint, think about how powerful that would be. Where a prediction that I've made in the past, so this isn't something I just came up with today, a prediction that I made up in the past from all the videos ago, and especially after NAR's ruling, is that there's going to be a lot of litigation coming up. There's the litigation in real estate. So if you're a real estate attorney, you're about to make bank, because the litigation for buyers suing agents, agents suing buyers, buyers suing sellers suing buyers. All of that's going to go up 10x. It's going to go up 1,000%. So what I'm suggesting here is whenever you're creating this buyer rep agreement video where you're detailing it all, and you're able to showcase that to somebody, from a compliance standpoint, it's going to help you, but also from a liability standpoint. You're saying that I forced you to sign this buyer rep agreement, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, and you're also saying that I never mentioned X, Y, and Z. Well, that's so interesting, because this video is something that you confirmed that you watched and that you actually enjoyed, right? As evidenced by this text that I sent you the video, or whatever the case may be, right? So it's something that you actually articulated. There's video proof of you actually doing that. It saved us in different ways. It's not this particular video, but it saved us in different ways on, hey, you didn't tell me that this was going to happen whenever we joined your group or your team. Well, it's interesting because in our onboarding video, it specifically starts out with that. So it helps you. Again, it's getting this video explainer of the buyer rep agreement is huge. Now, here's your secret weapon here. This is for you listing agents. This is something that you have to do right now. Disclosing the compensation on your listings, getting a website. Let me start back. Creating a website that's very simple to use, but creating a website where you disclose the compensation on all of your listings. Some of you are very heavy listers. Some of you might have 3 listings, 5 listings, 12 listings at once. Well, you're getting ready to be inundated with all of these individuals that are, and rightly so, all these agents that want to go and show your home, but they need to know what 123 Main Street, if there's buyer agent compensation. What about 124 Main Street? What about 125 Main Street, right? So there's all of these different listings that you have. If you have one listing, sure, you can fill the 30 calls that you're going to get. You're not going to like it, but you can fill them. But if you have 5 listings, now you have 150 outreaches. So what I suggest is that you create a website where you have all of your listings in one place and disclose the compensation there. Now you may be saying, well, Jaime, That is explicitly prohibited in the proposed settlement. It is for the MLS. You cannot have that. You cannot disclose that compensation on the MLS. It says nothing. Well, actually, it doesn't say it. It specifically says that you can do it on your websites, whether that's your brokerage websites or your own website that you create. So whatever your domain is, let's just say JaimeResendez.com, just put /listings and have it redirect to something that you control. I use Notion all the time. A lot of the things that we do with our YouTube channels for our buyers and sellers, everything's not everything. A good amount of those links are redirected to Notion because I can just edit that at any point in time. I'm no web designer, but it's just a redirect, right? So just a lot of you have your personal domains, which is something I highly, highly encourage you to do. Having your domain and then just do a redirect. Just have a forward redirect where it's just JaimeResendez.com /listings as an example. And then it'll redirect over to your page where you get to update that. So whenever somebody calls you, whenever somebody texts you, whenever somebody, whatever, you're able to just send them that link and they're able to find the property that is that's in question. And then they see the whatever's being offered, if anything is being offered for the buyer's agent, right? That way, whenever you're on vacation, that way, whenever you're eating with family, that way, whenever you're at work and want to do something else, whatever the case may be, you just send them that one link, whoever it is texting, whoever it is calling, whoever it is calling you, just gets that one link. Does that make sense? So again, just have a website where you disclose compensation, where again, I understand that the NAR settlement said on the MLS, but your websites, that's a different ball game. So I encourage you to do that. That's something that you're going to actually see, you're going to actually find. There's going to be third-party companies, startups that are going to just focus on this. The same way that Showing Time carved a niche with the appointment setting is the same thing that's going to happen here from the compensation side. The only reason you don't hear NAR pushing for something like that is because in their proposed settlement, they can't do that. They can't encourage you to go and do something else. They can't encourage you to, this whole commission thing is something that they can't touch any longer. So that's why you're not seeing them push for much beyond that. At the end of the day, here's the thing for you. You got to dictate the narrative. I don't know how to spell dictate. You got to dictate the narrative. You saw what the media did. You saw what a lot of people think of our profession. It's a noble profession. You're helping people buy, you're helping people sell, you're helping people with the largest, in many cases, the largest asset that they're ever going to earn in their life, right? Create or dictate the narrative. We understand what the narrative is being pushed out there, that agents are greedy, that agents price fix, that agents colluded, that agents cheated, all these individuals. Of course, we know that that's not true. But at the end of the day, we can look back and see all the errors that NAR made, see all the errors that we as agents made, or whatever the case may be. We can continue looking backwards, or we can really adapt to what's happening right now. So whenever I say dictate the narrative, in your own words, write out what that actually is. Write out what ended up happening. Write out what this actually means for your clients, because your clients, if you haven't reached out to them yet, you're doing yourself a huge disservice, and you're doing them a huge disservice, because right now they turn on Fox, they turn on CNN, they turn on MSNBC, they read the New York Times, they go to Facebook groups, and they see all of this news about how you screwed them over. That's what they're seeing, right? So it's an opportunity for you to change the narrative.